Welcome to the Global Evaluation Week 2026. This year's theme is Evaluation, Evidence, and Trust in the Age of AI. In collaboration with Global Evaluation Week for this year, Fourth Wheel is hosting a series of sessions on AI and the future of evaluation, practice, judgment, and systems. Today is the first session in the series. The topic of the session is Inside the AI-Augmented Evaluation Workflow, how AI is changing everyday evaluation practice. I am Juhi. I work at Fourth Wheel in the capacity of Associate Manager M&E. And for today, I have my team members who I work with on an everyday basis, and it's my honor to have them here. I'll begin with Miss Helga Thomas. She's a manager M&E at Fourth Wheel and has over 12 years of experience in the development sector. She leads the studies, especially since the inception of evaluation, works very closely in frameworks and theory of change. Moving on, we have Mr. Saurabh and Mr. Vamsi. Both of them here are senior research executive at Fourth Wheel and work very closely when it comes to tool design, data analysis, data collection, tool digitization. Last but not the least, I have Ms. Farheen Fatima. She has 2 to 3 years of work experience. She is also a communication lead at Fourth Wheel, and she works closely with the teams during reporting and knowledge products. Before I move on and begin this conversation, I would like to do a very quick poll with one question that we have for everyone.
Also, Juhi, just a heads up that the audience can use the chat box to introduce themselves and the place they are joining from. And use the chat box as much as possible to communicate with us.
Additionally, we also have a Q&A option. You can all see. You could also put in your questions there. The team at backend and also the team here will try to answer these questions parallelly. In the end, we do have assigned 4 to 5, 7 minutes for question and answers, which some of us can take live as well. All right, so I think the question was, which AI tools do you regularly use in your day-to-day work? ChatGPT seems to be 80% chosen as an option, followed by Claude, Google AI Gemini, Microsoft Copilot, note takers, and presentation tools. We'll of course come to all of this. We'll also talk about all of this. Actually, before coming to Helga, I do want to set the context a bit, saying that, and also hearing everyone's poses, AI is already entering evaluation workflows, sometimes intentionally, sometimes informally. The question is no longer whether evaluators will encounter AI, but how to use it reasonably, critically, and contextually. For many young evaluators in lower middle income and middle income countries, the reality is tight timelines, massive documentation loads, multilingual field data, donor reporting pressure, and limited analytical support. So today we want to ask, where can AI genuinely help and where we must be cautious about. And with this, I would like to bring the attention to Helga. And Helga, coming to you, I have first question for you. How do you use AI in your everyday work?
Yeah, to start with, Juhi, my overall experience, I would say that AI has not reduced the importance of evaluators. It has basically changed where an evaluator can add value. So as a senior consultant, my role definitely begins much before the data collection starts. Like, for example, I involved in understanding the program or conducting literature reviews, developing theory of change or identifying outcomes, or building on frameworks or indicators, tool design, and then finally coming to the synthesizing of findings and strategic recommendations. So I would say that my interaction with AI is concentrated mostly in the early design and analytical stage of the evaluation lifestyle, life cycle, if I would put it in that way. So the first place, where the AI has changed my work, as you had also mentioned in your introductory speech, that during the literature reviews or during the program familiarization stage, like for example, considering having a long experience in the field of research and also in program designing and evaluation, traditionally, when I used to begin, I used to spend, like, for example, if I'm doing an evaluation in sectors like education, maybe education or skill development or livelihood or health, maybe any sector, I would spend several hours or, days reading any policy document or program reports or academic papers, guidelines, all the documents. The challenge was not only the volume of information, but also identifying the concepts and the framework which were most relevant and which would fit. So today, I would say that AI has accelerated that process considerably. For example, if I would take one example, maybe women's vocational training. So if I ask AI to explain me various concepts like maybe employability or agency or labor workforce, all this, it helps me to identify and simplify the terms, to understand, and also it can give us various framework, internationally recognized framework, which will measure the women empowerment or work readiness, but I still here I would like to emphasize that I still need to go to the original sources and understand the conceptual understanding, what is the methodological rigor which was used, and which framework is suitable for the local context or evaluation objective. So coming back, to the document review or literature review, if I would say that before I was using, let's say, for example, 40% of my time, so which has reduced to like 20%, now if the what AI has done in this part is summarizing the document, the familiarizing, giving me the familiarization of the concept, extracting key findings, and relevant sources and resources. And now I would say, as a researcher, now my greater focus is on critical analysis or triangulation, or it has mainly shifted, I would say, from an information processing to high order of analytical thinking. And you have already listed few of the tools which is used during this process of, like, obviously ChatGPT, Cloud. Connected Paper is also one of the AI, Anara, Gamma, Read AI. These are few AIs which we use during our work. However, here, this is where, an important distinction must be made. Like, AI helps me to discover many possibilities, but it does not take decision for me. Like, it cannot replace the evaluator's responsibility to critically assess and select an appropriate framework. Like, it may throw a dozen of framework, but you still need to go to the original sources, read it, whether it is applicable for your context, for your study. Yeah, Juhi.
Thank you, Helga. That was very insightful, except especially the fact that you said that, you still do the thinking part. I think a lot of misconception that's out there is that Claude and or any AI tool is going to do the thinking part. But as Helga also mentioned, there are some great tools that she said. Of course, Gamma is there for presentations, but also what she mentioned about Anara. There's also Petal AI for literature review, for document analysis and all. Just sharing them here, and we'll also share the list with the when we do send a wrap-up email for this session. Helga, before I leave you, I just also wanted to know, could you share a bit about how you use AI during theory of change? I mean, because it's an important part of our evaluation studies. So if you could also share a bit about that.
Yeah. So here, coming back again, Juhi, like, while developing theory of change, evaluators or researcher, here we need to identify, the causal pathways, the assumptions, the risk, the influences, to generate the theory of change. So AI can help you in generating the initial structure. Like, I can go back to the example of a skill development program. Like, for example, AI may identify what are the assumptions related to employer demand or family support or the digital literacy or labor market. But here, I would say the theory of change development remains fundamentally a human exercise. Like, AI does not understand the political or economic dynamics, like the community realities. For example, what is the gender norms? What is the implementation histories? What is the stakeholder relationship? So here, AI can throw you a whole list of outcomes, but it is a responsibility of the researcher and the evaluators to classify it, to understand it, to categorize it, understanding the realities, to where does it fall, to mainly to come up with the casual pathways, and definitely it needs to be validated, through stakeholder management or through engaging with the stakeholders and through professional expertise. Yeah.
Thanks, Helga. I think we'll come to all these about expertise and also where we should be careful about. But as Helga mentioned, just want to say that, one key takeaway from Helga's conversation is that it's still an exercise where we all need to think, we need to come together. Maybe the AI and could give you some structure to it, some pathways to it, but you need to go back and re-verify. So moving on, so we've decided, have made this discussion distributed among team members. Helga is talking about evaluation frameworks and theory of change. Now we move on to Saurabh, who's going to talk about tool design and tool digitization. Saurabh, over to you. Just want to understand how you've been using AI in your work.
Well, as an evaluator, especially working across different themes in the sector, you often, and I would say for many researchers also present on the call, we do experience the syndrome called as blank page syndrome. Because whenever you're starting something new, there is so much to read about, so much to absorb, and then there comes a point wherein every indicator seems relevant. And that is where it becomes difficult to actually start off with. And here is where I think AI has been really helpful in my day-to-day practice. Just to give an example is I was preparing a tool for data collection wherein I was supposed to speak to adolescent girls who have experienced different forms of abuse. Now, in such context, the challenge actually comes down to not just collecting the right information, but also ensuring that the question that you're asking is not causing any distress, is not reinforcing the trauma that they have already experienced, and basically not making them feel uncomfortable. So the AI actually has helped me to be cognizant about the language, the sequencing, and the whole notion of the tool that I'm preparing with. So when I say the tools that I've been using, obviously it's ChatGPT and Claude, of course. But what they have helped me to do is that they do not replace my whole judgment as a researcher, nor do they make the decision as Helga mentioned. It's around the fact that they help me to give a starting point. As I've mentioned earlier, they also help me refine the language, and potentially they help me identify what could be the right word. And uh, then the most time actually goes into making the tool more fruitful and more engaging. As I would say, the real value of AI actually lies in accelerating the early stages of thinking and tool development, because that is where I'm able to use my expertise to improve the whole experience of the participant when I'm asking those questions. Moving on, again, we were looking at the poll also. It was ChatGPT and Claude on top, and rightly so, because they're like the first tools that we all go to. But apart from these tools, there is another one which is called as NotebookLM that I have been using quite extensively. It's because at Fourth Wheel, it's been like 15 years that we have been in the industry and had the opportunity to also work around so many different projects. Now, what happens here is that NotebookLM lets me also feed in all the reports and the tools that I've already made in the past 15 years. And here, it actually let me bring in the institutional knowledge when it comes to making the tool. I'm able to compare the new tool against the previously made tools so that I'm not losing any important dimension or a perspective that should be there. It actually helps me identify gaps, and basically I'm not starting from scratch. So yeah, moving away from ChatGPT and Claude as one of the models, I would also suggest that we start looking into the other application which is called as NotebookLM by Google. So yeah.
Thanks, Saurabh. Saurabh, would you like to spend like few minutes, one on the triangulation aspect of using AI for the tool design, and also then moving on to tool digitization, you can just talk about both simultaneously, one after another.
Actually, Juhi, you brought a very important point, which is triangulation. Again, going to go back with an example is we were doing a project in Bihar wherein we had the opportunity to speak to the district level officer, the block level, and then the cluster level officials, moving on to literally the school leaders and the teachers. Now, here the whole aspect of triangulation is very important because this also helps us to maintain a check on what the each stakeholder is actually experiencing when it comes to the responses. And again, AI actually helps me also maintain that triangulation across the 7 tools that I'll be making. So uh, great that you brought this point up. And moving on to the whole process of digitalization, I'm pretty sure that the evaluators are also aware of the software called as SurveyCTO and Kobo toolbox that is usually used for data collection. At Fourth Wheel, we use SurveyCTO quite extensively. And to make a form on SurveyCTO, you actually have to use the Excel format. Now, again, AI has been really a savior out here is because it lets me save a lot of time in the context of doing the checks. Uh, the whole point comes down to avoiding the repetitive tasks that I usually used to spend time on checking that is the skip logic properly mentioned or not. So what happens now is that the model that I'm using on ChatGPT has understood that if I'm coming up with a list of questions, it's going to make that Excel sheet for me in matter of some minutes. This gives me the actual time to put the tool on the SurveyCTO application in actuality and then do multiple dummy forms. This is actually just improving the whole experience for the participant, and I think that is where AI is again helping us a lot. And honestly, this matters because sometimes the forms that you are making on SurveyCTO, even if you put a space by mistake, it's not going to accept the form. So that's one thing. The other thing actually also applies to the translations. AI is really quick to generate that, and you're able to at least make the first draft of the translations. The field team can then review and refine as and when we move in onto the field. So just to close it, Juhi, AI is not just replacing the evaluator; it's just taking the repetitive tasks away from our end, and it's just giving us more time to actually do better formatting, create better drafts, and improve the responded experience.
Saurabh, I think this is very important when you talk about tool digitization, but because specifically when you are using SurveyCTO or Kobo Toolbox, there's skip logic, validation checks, relevance conditions, and I think if you could move from using it, augmenting it to automating it, your work in specifically when it takes a lot of time and formatting and everything, that's also a good use of AI in that sense. Thank you, Saurabh. Moving on, I welcome Vamsi here, and Vamsi will talk to us about data analysis part. Vamsi, over to you. How do you use AI when it comes to data analysis? And I think a lot of people would be key to understand how AI is also being used for data analysis. Over to you.
Thank you, Juhi. So before I dig deeper into the way we can enhance AI for analysis, I want to start with cleaning of data, how AI can be really helpful in the process. Because for any analysis, things start with the way we clean the data. So in the work we and most of the organizations or even audience know, data enters in our servers on a large scale basis, that too on a day-to-day basis. So, and the data we receive is not like one type of data or one category of data. So we use different tools to talk to different stakeholders. Saurabh was just mentioning example from Bihar where we talk to cluster level officials, state level officials, and block level officials. So even if I am allowed to give example from my experience, so we conducted recently a needs assessment in Konkan region of Maharashtra. So our teams used to travel 5 villages each day, and not to talk to just the households, but also talk to various stakeholders like Panchayat Raj leaders, ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, PHC doctors, along with organizing some focus group discussions with FSHG groups. So data during this time used to come almost on a day-to-day basis. So here the lesson the team we team has learned was that consistency and the need for real-time cleaning and monitoring of data. So this is like an enormous task, and this is where I've personally found like AI and AI tools can really help augment the workflow. So how it can be done and how do I use that is that, so automate, one thing is that AI really helps automating basic cleaning issues. So when we get our data, some aspects like translations, many cells coming blank because the respondent didn't answer the thing. And also there are like a representation of wrong integers. For example, take data for income or even land size. We get diverse amount of numbers which goes beyond our required format or unit. So which is this issue we face consistently across projects. So this becomes a time-intense process doing it manually on a day-to-day basis because it's a time-taking task. So AI can really help solve this kind of issues in the form of automation, like identifying what are the common gaps, how can we incorporate those to our monitoring sheets. Because most of us use Google Sheets or Excel to monitor our data. So through these things, we can leverage tools like AppScript, which is an inbuilt function of Google Sheets. I mean, through AppScript, you can generate Java codes, where AI can give us a brilliant code depending on the way we write or prompt information. So I use like AI through AppScript to generate standard JavaScript rules to predict predictable to get into critical data errors. So the script runs inside the Google Sheets without any external API costs, so which is like completely free of exercise. So one example is that, for example, we collect data from various regional places, like we get data in Marathi, Telugu, Kannada, in local languages. So identifying search languages and then automatically converting them into English in our requirement is also possible using AI and AppScript. So and automatically AI can help us detect what are the blank sheets that are appearing in the entire sheet, where we do need to get back to the enumerator to see what are the changes required and where integers are appearing in a wrong way. So all these things are pretty much being helpful and reducing enormous amount of time in our day-to-day like cleaning processing.
Thanks, Vamsi. What do you think about you using? So thanks for talking about data cleaning. Can you now bring us to how you use it for analysis as well?
So, I mean, the way I use AI for analysis, I mean, my like strategy is to use AI as a navigation tool, not like an assistant to do our analysis on our behalf. Because depending on the studies we do or the projects we conduct, we may need to develop several things like vulnerability indexes, program dashboards, conduct some statistical significance testing, and also exploring relationships between multiple variables. So the challenge is not always performing the analysis itself, but also to know which analytical approach is most appropriate for the question we're trying to answer. So, for example, for a recent vulnerability project we did, we had to develop our index for entire river basin in Konkan region. So such requirements may emerge depending on the scope of the project. So while tools like Excel or even SPSS and other tools like Stata, they continue to remain the primary platforms for analysis, but AI tools such as even Saurabh was mentioning, ChatGPT, Google, even simple Google AI search and even Claude can serve as effective guides. So they can help us as evaluators understand different statistical techniques. They suggest possible analytical approaches, explain concepts in a simple and easy language. They recommend formulas to be applied for various columns and data sets, and even provide examples on how a particular method be applied. So for example, we want to decide which test to use, chi-square, t-test, ANOVA. AI can really help us understand what are the strengths of using particular test and what are the limitations and what suits our project needs and analytical needs better. So yeah, I found this like particularly valuable when working with multidisciplinary teams, because not everyone in the team is from statistical background, including myself. So AI in these scenarios can act like an on-demand tutor, help teams understand why a particular analysis is being conducted and what does the result actually mean. So, but yeah, at the end, we have to remember that AI should guide us in analytical thinking, not to make analytical decisions. So at the end, we as evaluators still need to understand what is the context, what are the assumptions, what is the quality of data, and we have to determine whether suggested method is appropriate. So yeah, AI is less like an analyst, but more like a GPS where it can suggest different tools, but but the path has to be chosen by the evaluator, the person who is doing the analysis. So that is one broader picture of using AI as analytical navigation tool. Apart from that, one other aspect I found interesting during my experience of working with numbers and data is that the ease of triangulation. Saurabh also highlighted how it helps in tool design, but also how it helps even during after we get the data, after we uh, come back from the field. So AI really strengthens triangulation by enabling evaluators to examine how evidence from different sources, like I said, FGD to community participants, what panchayat judges are saying. So AI really helps converging, diverging, and complementing each tools across one another. So yeah, a survey may show improvements in one particular outcome, but interviews and FGDs may explain the pathways that led to change. So AI can really assist in mapping out these relationships, generating hypotheses. Yeah, that's one way. Another way I use data for analysis purposes other than using it as a navigation tool.
Thanks, Vamsi. That was very useful and technical also. I think there are a lot of questions for you that have also come up with respect to analysis in chat. But we'll come to the qual analysis part later in the next round of questions where we address kind of risk and cautions. A lot of questions that everyone has put regarding risk and things one need to be careful about. We'll be addressing that in the next round. But before we close this round, I want to welcome Farheen. And Farheen, I would like you to share a bit about how you use AI in reporting and specifically also more around the knowledge products. Thank you.
Thank you, Juhi. So definitely, I think AI has democratized the process of writing for all of us. And I'm so happy to see that people have joined us from all over the world and they can absolutely relate to it, how extensively it has helped us in writing, and it has eased our task in terms of communicating effectively. So AI basically comes into play while writing a report in terms of like structuring it in better format, or maybe the right choice of words. The instances of spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes has reduced significantly, and that actually help us save time and focus, and allows us to focus on other key aspects of the report writing, that is basically insights and findings. So that is how AI has really helped us. Also, I would like to just cite a small example. Like, we were recently doing a study on girls scholarship program where the outcomes were divided into so many broad categories, but with the help of the AI, we were able to streamline the report and narrow down the outcome into 5 major outcomes, which were more related to the study. And that is kind of just one example how we are using AI in our everyday work session.
Thanks, Farheen. I think what is key here is also that you first did the writing and then you used AI for just streamlining it. I think that's also a key part for all of us to take away, that writing we should do and then use it only in assisting you in grammar, and as you also mentioned, streamlining some of the concepts, help you declutter. So moving on, Farheen, one more question I think is also around how one can use AI, to improve visualizations or PPTs.
As for the first question, Juhi, definitely, like I was telling it to my team members also, that currently I'm using AI as like my personal RA. Like, being a research assistant, I am using AI as my own research assistant. So definitely the thought is going out from me. The thought is coming from an professional experience. AI is just helping me augment the process and make it a little more smoother, and um, uh, give it a more sharp edge in terms of telling what we really want to convey. And when it comes to visualization, I think AI has really helped me a lot, personally, because being early in my career, when I started off with the presentation making, it would take me like really hours to complete even one slide, because I would struggle with how to keep the word count across the same. I would even struggle with basic formatting. But now with the help of AI, we have been able to get the content in a more polished way, we can say. And at fourth wheel, especially, we are using some tools like Gamma AI, which has been like really helpful for us. Like if you are an NGO which do not have the budget of having graphic designers getting on board, or hiring especially people from design section, then I think Gamma AI has really streamlined that part for fourth wheel for us.
Thank you, Farheen. This was also very interesting what you also said, using Gamma for visualizations. And I think also you could use it for making your case stories more visual. I think one key thing we also want to mention is that, of course, Gamma is there, but we have worked hard on also branding it for fourth wheel. So it helped us save a lot of time when it comes to fourth wheel branding, and as well as formatting and everything. But now moving on to other aspects, Helga, over to you again. You've talked about all the good things as well, but I also want to hear from you. What are the some cautions you have when you use AI? How are you cautious, and also some limitations if you want to share?
Okay, so if I talk about the risk and the questions, there are many, Juhi, but I think I would like to focus on three top cautious, which or the risk which we should be cautious about. The mostly discussed issue is one, I would say, hallucination. Where AI generates the possibility, but there are instances where it might also generate incorrect information, like references, statistics, or interpretations. So it is always responsibility of the researcher, of the evaluators, to check and recheck those, and to verify it before using it. And for the second one, I would say that here in the first one, like hallucination, I would also like to add that it is always important that you go to the original sources of what, or the papers or the books where it has been written and what it is written. So the cross verification, it's really important. The second challenge I would say is the context blindness that I had also brought up during my initial talk, that AI often struggle to understand the local realities. What are the political dynamics, what is the social norms, what is the implementation history, or nuances, several nuances which exists when we are working with any program. Maybe it is impact evaluation, or maybe it is need assessment, or maybe any kind of study which we are doing. There are many nuances to understand, and that are very critical for an evaluation to interpret it, and for the strategic recommendations which we come up with. And then third, I would say, the privacy and the confidentiality concern. As we work with various vulnerable communities, very sensitive and personal data, beneficiaries are sharing their personal informations, they are sharing their experiences. There is a lot of information regarding any kind of organization, the community, the people. So the responsibility lies on the evaluator to safeguard those data. And here I would like to highlight that as a fourth wheel, we are also coming up with how do we move ahead with the privacy and the confidentiality concerns when we are dealing with our data. Yeah, so this would be my top three risks when we are discussing about the risk factors of using AI.
Thank you, Helga. Saurabh, over to you now. Wanted to know from you how can you also share what big mistakes AI also make when you're designing tool and when you're digitizing?
The first one definitely is going to be the translations. I did mention it in the previous section also that we do get to refine it, but it's a bit of a task when you're doing those translations, is because it does it very quickly, but it doesn't make it like the end user output. Quite often, the translated text also is like a direct transliteration of English words into the other expected language, and sometimes it's too formal also for people who are actually going to use it, and it makes it difficult to also pronounce it in a day-to-day conversation. For example, I came across many questionnaires actually, wherein the enumerators were actually finding it difficult to speak that in the local language, which was Kannada. And then gladly it was like the pilot study, and this was the purpose to also understand what are some of the problems and the issues with the tool. And that was like a very major feedback from the enumerators that, sir, the language is too formal, and I don't think that this is what we're actually using on a daily basis. So that was one. The second challenge is the length of the questionnaire. Now it does give me the first draft, but then um, as I mentioned, that you need to also input your time to make it a more cleaner and a leaner format of the questionnaire, because it's going to make sure that everything is covered, and it's also based on the prompt that I've given. But originally, the tool becomes quite lengthy as an end user product. So that's one thing. Um, and then the third challenge is going to be around the digitization, because sometimes when I say digitization, AI is going to make sure that it has all the skip projects and the relevance conditions, but sometimes it becomes very difficult to also move on with it. For example, uh, if there is a skip logic on a question, it's a simple yes or no, but then the follow-up questions are supposed to be based on yes, but uh, if you click on yes, the questions are actually very irrespective to be coming up on the screen. So these skip logic and the relevance pieces actually makes it a bit complicated. So of course, the whole point is that it's a reminder that the strengths of AI can obviously become like weaknesses when it comes to just using it like the end user. The way I see it is that AI works best when it becomes like a part of the evolution rather than something totally separate, because it helps me move out of the whole blank page syndrome. It helps me to make the first drafts faster, and it's actually like the responsibility uh, for me that I need to make sure that the decisions that are coming out, the understanding of the field realities, and the quality is not deteriorated if we are just relying on AI. So I think, Juhi, that are like few of the mistakes that AI usually makes.
Thanks, Saurabh. All right. Vamsi, over to you. Similar questions, and a lot of people are also asking questions about qualitative analysis. Maybe you can talk about it here.
Yeah, I was just going through the questions, especially on that call part. I thought of answering, but I thought of answering like in detail in this segment. And also, I want to answer a few questions. Someone was asking also about a risk of analysis of using AI for things. So yeah, coming to qual part. So at Fourth Wheel, the work we do, qual data is as integral to our work as quant data. So I was part of various evaluation, needs assessment, and SRI projects where qual data formed the basis for analysis, conclusions, various calculations also, and some recommendations. So in this process, various AI tools helped me in making better sense of the data we got, connecting words with numbers or integrating numbers and words. So AI has been like particularly useful in helping us process large volumes of qual data more efficiently. So one example I want to give is that because for qual data, we use deduce for analysis. So it is the primary software or a tool we use when organizing and coding call information and data. So the information will be in the form of, say, KIIs, in-depth interviews, or many or various focus group discussions, or even a bunch of open-ended questions which complement other quant questions in a survey tool. So tools like, say, even ChatGPT or Cloud, they serve as a complementary layer while working with softwares like Deduce. So you might use even other applications like Tagit, but yeah, the approach is the same. So for example, in Dodos, after thematic coding is done, AI can really help compare themes, identify what are the good quotes, and also identify what are the relationships between codes and integrate findings across large and smaller data sets. So especially for studies where information we gathered, they're talking to we talk to hundreds of people in multiple geographies in one go. So one example is because emergence of SROI studies are booming in the recent few years. So from my experience working in various SROI studies where outcomes need to be clearly defined and eventually evidenced to generate a monetary value out of it. So AI has been useful in refining what are the outcome statements and help us also design chain of change figures so that overall things that need to be monetized can be only those which we have defined in a well-defined way. So AI is really helping in search identifications and also identify what are the overlaps between outcomes and connecting core narratives with quant findings. And also to ask about what is the point I really stopped trusting AI outputs is that, so when interpretation is done without sufficient evidence. So qual analysis is highly dependent, we all know that, on context, nuances, tones, and even most importantly, the local realities, because that the what we observe in the field, they should be the key basement of what we are going to analyze and recommend at the end. So this is where I think AI can miss. So for example, insights gathered from an FGD in a particular village or only one particular respondent, they can be AI can use that as to generate broader analysis and identify key themes in many cases. This must be verified and cross-checked manually and because bringing in observations is crucial across the phases of analysis and reporting. So I see tools like even ChatGPT or Cloud as something that can accelerate our analysis, but we as evaluators must remain the final decision makers. So through the experience, I have realized that responsibility for interpretation, judgment, and conclusion should continue to rest within the human analyst, not some AI tool.
Thank you, Vamsi. I would also now like Farheen to throw some light upon as well the limitations aspects of it, especially when writing and visualizations. Yeah.
Juhi. And again, as I was looking at the questions that are coming in, so many people are talking about the ethics and the risk. Definitely, we are trying to cover it, but just want to give a heads up also here that tomorrow again we are having a whole session on this case. Where is the limitation lies? How much can we trust AI, and what is the role of human judgment? So. In terms of writing, like I said, definitely we use AI for, generating summaries or maybe to make the writing more sharper. But in no sense we are trying to convey that, okay, the insights are coming from AI, because it's the prompt that we are giving to the thought behind is definitely the professionals are giving it, the people who have been on the field are giving it. So we cannot just say the writing part AI can definitely do. Never. I personally will never advocate that. But when we look through a zoomed out perspective, it's very important to actually do a lot of brainstorming around what all needs to go into the PPT we are making, especially if we are making it for donors or funders, because they don't have the time to sit through a long 100-page report, or they don't have the time to go through a boring PPT, right? So AI then help us making our findings more crisp and visually more interesting in highlighting the points that we really want to convey. But at the same time, it brings me to reflect that the evaluators or people in the social sector are still striving to work towards a common goal. We are the ones who share this aspiration. It's not AI. AI is just a support mechanism for us, which can help us in achieving that goal, maybe in an accelerated way, if definitely used with sincerity and caution. But my key takeaway for this is that AI is definitely helping us in projecting what we want to convey in the most solid form, but the thought remain ours. Also, I would just like to quickly add something I read in one article on New York Times, that for the first time in history, we have a technology that is capable of generating language separately from thoughts, experiences that traditionally gave rise to it. So when a chatbot writes, it's not thinking in the human sense. It is predicting the next word, most likely to form a convincing sentence, argument, or idea based on the vast amount of text it has been trained on. In doing so, it can produce a language that might feel sophisticated, creative, and coherent, even when the underlying ideas may not be originally deeply understood or meaningfully grounded in reality. So that is what makes this moment so significant for the social sector, research and evaluation team, because for decades we have treated language as a proxy for expertise, right? A written report signaled that okay, the project has been understood very nicely. A polished synthesis might imply the depth of understanding. A compelling a paragraph might suggest that this person has understood or has taken the insight very nicely. But AI disrupts that assumption entirely. It separates the fluency from comprehension. The question is no longer something that can be written well. I mean, the question is, okay, who is interpreting the evidence? Who is understanding the context? Who exercise the judgment, and who remains accountable for what is being said? So I think that is where its real limitation lies, and that is where the role of people working so hard in the social impact sector comes into play, and very importantly so. So yeah, that is my takeaway from it.
Thank you, Farid. I think we've had some very interesting questions. Helga, we'll do the closing later. But there are a few questions where people have also asked. I think so. Maybe Helga, you can take this up. Basically, it's a comment. Also, AI tools comes with a lot of biases. So, what do you think, Helga, on that?
Yeah, definitely. It is comes with biases, like what we feed in, the same kind of responses it throws to us. So as from the beginning of my talk, I have been focusing how cautious we should be when we are using AI. So definitely we should, AI should not be making judgments for you. So you should take your own judgments. Obviously, you can take the information, but the judgment lies with the evaluators and with us. Definitely, I would say that.
Okay, thank you. I think also the whole aspect of how professionally and ethically writers the data is in web world without data security, right to privacy. I think we just also want to reiterate that, as Saurabh has also multiple times mentioned that remove, and he also answered some of the questions, removing identifiers, removing every kind of information that's out there, and then using AI. That also means using any names of any participants or even the location, even the geography, even the school's names, or whatever information is in any way can harm population and participants. We should not put it on AI. Yeah, and also there's one question, Vamsi, for you. I'm not sure if you've answered this. To what extent do you think AI will replace traditional tools like Excel macros and SPSS? Do you see these tools becoming obsolete, and how much of workflow do you realistically see AI replacing over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I haven't replied to that privately, but yeah, I think I mentioned that in my response, that it's not about replacement. It's all about, if you use AI as a navigation tool, I feel tools like Excel, SPSS, Power BI, Stata are still relevant in our final judgment. So it's about the way we use the tools. It's not like how we want to replace one tool with the another.
Thanks, Vamsi. I think someone asked a question, are CSR donors against AI developed projects? And IVR has already responded, as long as it's as long as it's not entirely written by AI and that data is ethically collected, the practices are specially established and verified. It can just act as an assistant, and I think CSR would be fine with that. Yeah, I think, Ivya, is there any more questions for us that we've forgotten to answer? Okay, yeah. So there's one question. I don't know. You can decide who wants to answer this. The question is ultimately, is AI the end user and benefiting from us? So it's a statement or a question. I don't know who would like to take that up. Vamsi, go ahead. Or Helga, or Saurabh, or Farheen. One of you go ahead.
I think, Malati, a really great question, of course. But I think you still have the steering wheel, you still have the control of how much are you letting it benefit from our information. So that was the whole point of also having this discussion, is that you still need to control that amount of information that is being fed into. So, of course, it's a very big question and another point of discussion for another 1.5 hours. But Vamsi, over to you, your initial thoughts.
Yeah, as it is what Saurabh was mentioning, because it also requires deep level of thinking and how to like really see the way data is going. But yeah, it's all about the way we want to use AI, because I think from our experience working at Fourth Wheel, every organization should adhere to some sort of AI policy in their domains, because it is up to us where we want to draw the line. Because AI has, from our experience, has no limits, only it gets bigger and bigger. So as long as we are clear on drawing the boundaries, then I think some way forward can emerge out of it.
Thanks, Vamsi. So before we close, I would like Helga to come in for one personal reflection. Over to you.
So one observation I would say for my practice is AI is that it gives best result when it is paired with experience. Like AI has been more made me productive because I spend my 10 years working on research in education sector, in development sector, conducting research without using AI. And I have completed my doctorate without using an AI. So, visiting libraries, by reading books, by journals. So, in my concluding remarks would be, learn the fundamentals first and then use AI to amplify those skills. Definitely, because do not let AI to substitute an evaluator's judgmental and judgments and the professional judgments which you have and the skills which you have. Yeah.
Thank you, Helga. Very well said. We need to do our fundamentals first, read, write, and then use something that can assist us. Having said that, I want to close today's session, and I want to reiterate the few principles that me and my team have shared here. Is one, AI is an assistant, not a replacement. Human interpretation remains central. Faster is not always better. We need to be, if we want to be efficient, we should not compromise with ethics and rigor. And also, context matters. Evaluation in countries like ours, the communities we work with, it's very important that caution around bias, prejudices, representation, language, harms and abuse, everything should be taken into consideration before we actually even go and use AI. I also would like to thank all the audience here, but before everyone leaves, I want all of you to also tell a bit about tomorrow's session that we are hosting, and it's what AI cannot replace in evaluation, the role of human judgment. So a lot of you asked us questions about role of human judgment. So we do join us tomorrow. I would also want people to just give us a few minutes because we want to do a feedback poll as well. And thank you so much, Helga, Vamsi, and Saurabh, Farheen, for being here and sharing your insights. Lovely having you all here. Yeah, we can do the poll. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think we have a lot of people responding to the poll questions. Thank you for joining us, and do join us tomorrow at 2 p.m. at the same time. Thank you.